Buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into autonomous driving,
Oh, yeah.
specifically in Switzerland.
Interesting.
Yeah, the land of chocolate mountains and
And banks and
watches, now self-driving cars.
Potentially self-driving house, right?
Yeah, starting March 1, 2025.
Wow.
They're set to allow some types of autonomous vehicles on their roads.
So Switzerland is not just dipping their toes in the water, they're going all in.
Yeah, they're diving right in.
Okay, so for this deep dive, our roadmap includes some official government docs.
Okay.
From the Swiss Federal Council,
Uh-huh.
a YouTube channel called Tesla Fakten, run by a Swiss Tesla owner.
Sounds promising.
Is super psyched about all this.
Right.
And then we've got a more cautious take from the Swiss Federal Roads Office, which is Astra.
Astra, okay.
Yeah, so we've got the excitement, we've got the regulation,
Yeah.
and then kind of the,
The more skeptical side.
yeah, the more skeptical.
It's always good to have those different perspectives.
Exactly.
It gives us a much richer picture
Absolutely.
of what's happening.
Yeah.
So Tesla Fakten is very excited about this.
Oh, yeah.
And they're praising Switzerland's innovative spirit. And they're even comparing
Really?
the camera of Zurich
Okay.
to San Francisco
Wow.
in terms of their autonomous driving ambitions.
That's quite the comparison.
Yeah.
Setting the bar high.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's back up and look at the basics.
Okay.
What exactly are the Swiss approving here? The Federal Council mentions specific applications.
Right. So it's not just a free-for-all
No.
with any self-driving car.
Right, right.
So they've outlined 3 main areas where they're going to allow this.
Okay, hit me.
First, autonomous driving on highways,
Okay,
but drivers still have to be alert and ready to take over
Okay.
if needed.
got it.
It's kind of like Tesla's full self-driving in the U.S.,
Okay,
but maybe with even stricter rules.
so no napping while cruising through the Alps just yet.
Not quite yet, no.
Okay, so that's one. What's the second one?
The second one is driverless vehicles.
Okay,
On pre-approved routes, the cantons themselves
Yeah.
will decide the specifics on this.
right.
And Canton Zug, like we mentioned,
Yeah.
is very eager to be a leader in this area.
They want to be the first.
They really do.
Okay, what about number 3?
Number 3 is automated parking
Okay,
in designated zones.
so I can get out and the car just parks itself?
Exactly.
I like that one,
Yeah, it would make things a lot easier.
especially parallel parking.
Oh, especially parallel parking.
Okay, so we've got these 3 areas, but
Yeah.
where does Tesla fit into all of this?
Well, that's where things get interesting.
Okay,
Tesla Fakten points out that there's some uncertainty
Uh-huh.
about how much autonomy Tesla's full self-driving will actually have in Switzerland
okay,
compared to the U.S.
right.
There are some regulatory differences.
Okay,
Tesla relies just on cameras
okay.
for their system, while a lot of other car manufacturers use radar and LiDAR.
So it's cameras versus lasers, basically.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay,
And Tesla Fakten mentions that Mercedes-Benz
Mhm.
actually got the world's first Level 3 system approval, BERT, in 2021.
really?
So Tesla isn't necessarily the front runner here.
Interesting.
It's a different landscape in Europe.
Okay, so our Tesla documentation is very, very clear that all of their autopilot features,
Okay,
even the full self-driving capability package,
right.
still require a driver who's paying attention and ready to take over at any moment.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah, does that conflict with what the Swiss are saying, or is that...
It's not a direct conflict,
Okay.
but it shows how important it is to have clear language
Yeah.
and public understanding.
Yes.
Because when Tesla uses a phrase like full self-driving capability,
Right.
it can give the impression that the car can do more than it actually can right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so how is this playing out in Switzerland?
So Astra,
The Swiss Federal Roads Office?
yes.
Yeah.
They're taking a much more cautious approach.
Okay.
And they're specifically calling out challenges that
Yeah.
Tesla has faced in the U.S. because of accidents involving autopilot
Okay.
and full self-driving capability.
So they're saying no to Tesla.
Not exactly.
Okay.
But they're emphasizing that right now, Switzerland only permits level 2 automation,
Okay.
which means the driver must be in control at all times.
Always.
Always. And even with the new law,
Uh-huh.
that will allow up to level 4.
Okay.
Astra is saying that Tesla's system, despite the name,
Right.
is really only between level 2 and level 3 at best.
So there's a big difference between the enthusiasm of Tesla Fakten
Oh, definitely.
and the reality of the regulations.
Yeah, there's some tension there.
And that tension isn't just between, like, Tesla and the regulators.
Right.
It's popping up in public opinion, too.
Ah,
Astra's blog post about automated driving has actually sparked a whole debate
really?
in the comment section.
Oh, I love a good comment section debate.
Me too.
What are people saying?
So you have some commenters,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm guessing these are the Tesla fans,
Probably, yeah.
saying that full self-driving is already super advanced
Right.
and ready to go.
Okay.
And they're pointing to all the miles that have been driven with full self-driving in the U.S.
Makes sense.
And they're probably also saying that statistically, Tesla's safety record is actually better than human drivers.
That's a common argument
Right.
from Tesla supporters.
But then you have other people who are bringing up the accidents that have happened
Right.
when Tesla's autopilot was engaged.
Yeah.
So it's that classic risk-reward situation.
Yes.
Fewer accidents,
Mm-hmm.
potentially more efficiency.
But who knows what's going to happen in the real world
Right.
when you have unpredictable situations.
Exactly.
And that's why Astra is so focused on clear language and public education.
Right, because if people don't understand what these systems can actually do,
Uh-huh.
then they're more likely to use them incorrectly.
Right.
And then that leads to accidents.
Yeah, it's all about managing expectations.
Okay, so you've got Astra trying to keep everyone grounded
Uh-huh.
while Tesla is kind of, pushing the envelope,
Pushing the boundaries.
pushing the boundaries, yeah.
It's a dance between innovation and regulation.
And in the middle of all of this are the Swiss people
Yes.
who are going to be directly affected by how this plays out.
Yeah, it's a fascinating real-time experiment to see how a society adjusts to these big technological changes.
And speaking of adjustments, Tesla Factin brings up another interesting point.
Okay, what's that?
They talk about the possible impact
Uh-huh.
on the economy
Okay.
and tourism.
Interesting.
They imagine these robo-taxis
Right.
zipping tourists around,
Yeah,
showing off all of Switzerland's beauty
makes sense.
and their high-tech side.
It's a good marketing strategy.
It is.
If you can pull it off.
Right. But then that also makes you think about what happens to the jobs.
That's the other side of the coin.
Yeah, in the transportation sector.
Yeah. What about taxi drivers, bus drivers?
All the people who rely
Uh-huh.
on human-driven vehicles.
That's a critical question.
Yeah.
That needs to be considered.
It seems like every step forward with autonomous driving opens up a whole new can of worms
It does.
when it comes to those kinds of social and economic questions.
Absolutely. It's not just about the cars themselves.
Yeah.
It's about how this technology impacts people.
Right, and how we make sure it benefits everyone.
It's about the bigger picture. Yeah, it's not just about the cars. It's how we use this technology and make sure it benefits everyone.
Okay, so we've got Switzerland cautiously and excitedly dipping their toes
Right.
in the autonomous driving pool.
Uh-huh.
Let's go back to Tesla.
Okay.
We talked about those regulatory differences. But
Yeah.
what are those exactly?
So one of the key differences is how Tesla is approaching the technology. They're all in on cameras.
Okay,
And this vision-based system for autonomous driving.
okay.
They believe that cameras and neural networks
Uh-huh.
can understand the driving environment
Okay.
as well as, if not better, than systems that use radar and AR.
Interesting, but it sounds like the Swiss regulators and maybe some others around the world
Uh-huh.
aren't totally sold on that yet.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of regulators prefer a system that uses multiple types of sensors,
Right.
not just cameras.
So that could be one of the reasons why Tesla's rollout of full self-driving might be slower in Switzerland?
It could be, yeah. And remember, Astra
Uh-huh.
specifically mentioned the challenges Tesla has had in the U.S.
Right, with those accidents.
Exactly, because of those accidents
Okay.
involving autopilot and full self-driving. So they're going to want to see strong evidence
Yeah,
that the technology is safe and reliable.
right. They're responsible for everybody on the roads,
Exactly.
not just Tesla drivers.
Not just Tesla drivers, exactly.
But this has got to be frustrating from Tesla's point of view.
Yeah, I mean, they're known for pushing the boundaries,
Right, and
for
now
being innovative.
they're hitting up against regulations that maybe aren't moving as fast as the technology is.
Right. It's that classic tension
Right.
between innovation and regulation.
Yeah.
You know, Tesla wants to keep pushing the limits,
Mhm.
but regulators need to make sure that those limits are clearly defined
Right.
and, above all, safe.
And it's the public, ultimately, who will benefit or be harmed
Right.
by
Exactly.
how this all plays out.
Right.
Okay, so we've got Tesla, the innovator,
Uh-huh.
pushing the tech as far as they can, and then Astra, the regulator,
Right.
holding the reins.
Yeah, making sure things are done safely
Right.
and that the punt understands what's happening, which is really important.
And public perception is so important, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if people lose trust in the technology
Right.
because of accidents or misuse, it could really set the whole industry back.
It could set the whole industry back years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this reflects a bigger conversation that's
Oh.
happening all over the world right now
About,
artificial intelligence
okay,
and what role it should play in our lives.
Right.
I mean, we're all wrestling with questions about trust and safety and even the basic idea of what driving means.
it's true, because the way we think about driving
Yeah,
is going to change so much.
it is. Yeah.
Okay, so let's zoom back in
Okay.
on those comments
Yeah.
on Astra's blog.
What are people saying?
What were some of the main points of disagreement?
Well, some people,
And I'm guessing these are probably the Tesla enthusiasts.
yeah, probably some of the Tesla enthusiasts
Okay.
argued that FSD is already extremely advanced.
Okay.
and can handle complex driving situations.
Right.
And they point to the millions of miles
Yeah.
that have been driven with FSD in the U.S.
Right. Is proof that it's safe.
as proof that it's reliable
Right.
and that it works.
And I bet they were also quick to point out that statistically,
Yes.
Tesla's safety record is actually better than human drivers.
Exactly. That's a common argument from Tesla's supporters. But then on the other side, you had people who brought up the accidents
Yes.
that have happened with Tesla's autopilot systems.
Yeah, and those do happen.
They do happen, and they question whether the technology is really mature enough
Right.
to be trusted with people's lives.
Okay, so it's that classic risk versus reward.
It is, yeah.
Maybe fewer accidents,
Right,
maybe
right.
more efficiency.
Right, essentially.
But how will these systems handle unpredictable situations in the real world?
That's the big question.
Right.
We don't know.
Yeah, and that's why Astra is so focused on clear language in public education.
Exactly.
Because if people don't understand the limits
Right.
of these systems,
They might use them incorrectly.
they're more likely to use them incorrectly.
Yeah,
And then that's how accidents happen.
and that's how accidents happen.
Okay, so we've got Astra trying to keep things realistic and Tesla pushing the boundaries of what's technologically possible.
Right, it's a delicate dance.
It is between innovation and regulation.
And right in the middle of it all
Are the Swiss people?
are the Swiss people.
Who will experience this firsthand?
It's like a real-time
Yeah, a real-time case study.
in how society adapts to this rapid technological change.
It is fascinating to watch.
It is. And speaking of adapting,
Yes.
Tesla Facton brings up another interesting point.
Okay, what's that?
The potential economic and tourism impact
Right.
of autonomous driving.
Makes sense.
They imagine these robo-taxis
Yeah.
shuttling tourists around,
Uh-huh.
showcasing Switzerland's beauty
Yeah.
and high-tech side at the same time.
Yeah, it's a cool vision.
It is.
And one that could really have some major economic benefits for Switzerland.
Yeah, imagine if tourists could just explore the country
Right.
without the hassle of driving.
Yeah, or figuring out public transportation.
That could be a huge draw.
It could be huge.
But it also makes you think about those jobs
Yeah.
in the tourism and transportation sector.
That's the other side of it. Yeah, what happens to the tour guides?
Right.
The drivers?
Yeah.
If autonomous vehicles become the norm.
That's an important consideration.
It is.
That policymakers need to address,
Yeah.
proactively.
How do we make sure that those workers
Right.
aren't left behind
Exactly.
by these advancements?
Yeah, maybe there are ways to integrate this technology
Right.
in a way that complements existing jobs
Right.
instead of replacing them.
Maybe we'll see some hybrid tours
Oh, interesting.
where autonomous vehicles handle the transportation,
Uh-huh.
but human guides provide the
human element.
the historical and cultural context.
That's an interesting possibility.
Yeah, or maybe autonomous driving could open up
Yeah.
new tourism opportunities in more remote or less accessible areas,
That's a good point.
right? Because there are parts of Switzerland that are hard to get to
They are, yeah.
if you don't have a car.
Exactly.
So it could open up those areas
Yeah, it could really change things.
to people who maybe have mobility issues
Right.
or just want a more relaxed travel experience.
Yeah, exactly. So while there are definitely some challenges,
Uh-huh.
autonomous driving also has the potential to transform the Swiss tourism industry
Right.
in some pretty amazing ways.
Yeah, in some really unexpected ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it really highlights how we all have a voice in shaping this future. It's not just something happening to us.
Right. And I think Switzerland, with their kind of cautious but also innovative approach,
Yeah.
it's going to be a really interesting case study to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. Speaking of case studies, let's not forget about Tesla Facton,
Yeah.
our Swiss Tesla enthusiast. What's their ideal scenario here?
Well, they're super excited about the prospect of FSD coming to Switzerland.
Of course.
They're already picturing all these amazing road trip videos they'll be posting online.
I can imagine.
But it's not just about the personal excitement for them.
Right.
They see this as something much bigger. They really believe that autonomous driving could transform Switzerland's economy and tourism industry.
How so?
Attracting more visitors, boosting efficiency, showcasing the country's tech capabilities.
So they're painting this picture of Switzerland becoming like a self-driving utopia
Kind of.
where
Yeah.
robots are handling all the driving
Right.
while the humans can just relax and enjoy the scenery.
Yeah, it's a really compelling vision.
And it is.
And it might not be that far-fetched.
Right. But like we've been talking about, there are also some potential downsides.
Of course.
We have to think about the jobs.
Yes, definitely.
What happens to all the people who drive for a living?
That's a huge question.
Yeah. And of course, the need for careful regulation
Absolutely.
to make sure that this is safe
Right, safety first.
for everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so every technological revolution
Uh-huh.
comes with opportunities,
Right.
but also challenges.
Absolutely. It's always a balancing act.
And speaking of challenges, let's bring it back to Astra.
Okay, the Swiss Federal Roads Office
Yet they seem to be approaching this whole thing with a lot more caution
Yes, a healthy dose of skepticism.
than our friend at Tesla Facton.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I mean, I guess it's their job, right?
It is their job.
They have to think about everyone's safety on the road,
Exactly. It's their responsibility to make sure that everyone is safe.
not just the people of the self-driving car.
Right. They're looking at Tesla's track record
Uh-huh.
and those accidents that have happened with autopilot and FSD,
Yeah.
and they're urging caution.
So it's that classic clash between the excited early adopter and the cautious regulator.
Exactly. And how does that translate into what Astra is actually doing?
Well, they seem to be really focused on clear language and public education.
Absolutely. They want to make sure that everyone understands what these systems can and cannot do,
Right?
and that ultimately a human driver is still responsible.
Yeah, you're not off the hook just because you're in a Tesla.
Not yet, no. And they've even gone so far as to clearly define the 6 levels of vehicle automation
Oh, wow.
to avoid any confusion.
Okay.
So right now, Switzerland only allows level 2, which is basically advanced driver assistance systems.
Okay.
But these new laws are paving the way for systems up to level 4, which is considered high automation,
Okay.
meaning the car can handle most driving tasks in certain conditions.
But even with these new laws, it sounds like Astra isn't totally convinced that Tesla's system is truly level 4.
Right. Even though they call it full self-driving capability,
Right.
they're saying that based on the current technology, Tesla's system is somewhere between level 2 and 3 at best.
Okay.
They're really making a distinction here. They're saying these systems aren't truly autonomous because they can still be affected by external factors.
So Astra is pushing back against the hype, focusing on safety and clarity, but they're also looking at those broader societal impacts.
They are. They're asking, what happens to employment,
Right.
especially for those who make a living by driving.
Like taxi drivers and truck drivers.
Exactly. And they're concerned about making sure that this technology benefits everyone in society.
Right.
Not just a select few.
It's about equity.
It is.
Yeah.
And those are really important questions to be asking.
They are. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We
The
have.
technical details, the
Yeah.
regulations, the societal implications.
It's been a journey
It has been a journey.
through the world of autonomous driving.
As we wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that the future isn't predetermined.
Okay.
We're creating it right now through the choices we make.
So it's not just something that's happening to us.
Exactly. We all have a say in how this unfolds.
We're all in the driver's seat, so to speak.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So will autonomous driving lead us to a utopia of convenience and efficiency?
Right.
Or will it create new problems that we haven't even thought of yet?
Right.
It all depends on how we approach it as a society. Do we rush in blindly?
Or do we proceed with caution?
Exactly.
Thinking about all those potential consequences.
That's the key.
Yeah, so it's not just about the technology itself.
No.
It's about our values.
Yes.
Our foresight.
Yes.
Our willingness to have these difficult conversations.
Absolutely, because those conversations are essential.
They are, and that's where our listener comes in, right?
Right. We've given them the information, the different perspectives.
The food for thought.
Now it's up to them to form their own opinions and get involved.
It's a call to action.
It is.
Challenge to think critically and make informed choices.
Because the road to the future is being paved right now.
Ooh, I like that.
And we all have a role to play in deciding where it leads.
That is a powerful message to end on.
Thank you.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into autonomous driving in Switzerland.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and help us steer towards a future we can all be proud of.